right, we on.
I know that new feature just slays me.
And so let me pin you and pin myself. Okay, cool. Are they coming in? Everybody, how y'all doing today?
Hello.
We got a couple minutes. You can take your before we get started. You can take your mics off of mute. Show your face, wave, all of that good stuff. But we'll be getting cranked up just in a couple of minutes as everybody continues to come in. We got a couple people loading in here. All right. So we definitely I want to thank you all for making the decision to hang out with us on a Friday evening, wherever you are in the world. It means a lot that you are willing to take the time to be here with us. You can be anywhere in the world, but you chose to hang out with myself and Jalen today. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Um, if you do not know, my name is Kavanaugh Nweze. I am the owner of, or well, founding partner of Nweze Financial Solutions, and we're here just to help individuals that look like us, that may not always have access to a professional that we can identify with, and we're going to be talking about social entrepreneurship today. I have a very distinguished guest that have made the decision to join us on this endeavor this Friday afternoon is Miss Jalen. So and Jalen is a community builder, a facilitator, strategist, reader, consultant, mama, Black millennial. She all the things. Um, I'm messing up here. Let's do this. Okay. And she has founded the Afrocentric Communiversity LLC, an African-centered consulting company for nonprofits and community builders. The community strives to empower community institutions to be the best versions of themselves using Afrocentricity, um, community engagement, and Black studies as pillars of their work. She's a proud alumna of U of H. She's a Coug, or Cougar, if you're not from the Houston area to know what that is. So she's a Cougar. That's the mascot. I don't, not the other Cougar. That's the mascot in political science and African American studies, and is a mother of the illustrious, a member of the illustrious Zeta Phi Beta sorority incorporated. Thank you, Jalen.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you for being here with us. It means a lot because this is a touchy topic. Well, not a touchy topic, but it is an important topic, and we wanted to make sure that we give some people some good information. Okay, so before we get started, it's some just a little background that I wanted to share with everybody, so I can make sure that we are all on the same page, right? So we're here today to talk about social entrepreneurship, right? And how we can turn our passion into profits, into our what we truly are, what's important to us. So just want to start with a couple of definitions so we can dive into what we're talking about. And when we talk about social entrepreneurship, this is an approach of by individuals or groups that startup companies or entrepreneurs in which they develop, fund, implement solutions to social, cultural, or environmental issues. This concept has been applied to a wide range of organizations which vary in size and beliefs. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, at least social entrepreneurship, I thought it was also important to dive into just to really think about what is entrepreneurship by itself. And that is the activity of setting up a business or businesses to take on a financial hope to take on financial risk in the hope of profit. So we're combining these two things, and that's what will be guiding our discussion today. Okay, how you feel about that, Jalen? Is that fitting? Okay, okay. All right, all right. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Jalen. And let's see here. We got some, Jalen has some wonderful information that she prepared for us today.
I tried my best.
Yeah, yeah, nah, it's great. It's great. And I'm trying my best to be an adequate DJ.
You're doing great.
All right, all right, all right. So you good? You see, everybody can see. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Jalen. It's on you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Jalen, and I'm the founder, visionary of the Afrocentric Communiversity. And so today I'm going to be talking about social entrepreneurship, but from a very, very unique perspective, and that is in the Black community, right? So when we talk about social entrepreneurship, how do we take this concept and really nuance it just for us? So next slide. We talked a little bit about the company earlier, but I just want to let folks know a little bit more about who they're hearing from. I think that's really important. So the Afrocentric Communiversity was founded in 2017. And as stated, we are an African-centered consulting company, right? So we are for-profit. Specifically, we do coaching and consulting services for nonprofits, grassroots organizations, and community builders, mostly throughout the United States, but specifically in Texas. So no matter who we serve, we do try to push our partners, which traditionally are known as clients, to really radically reimagine how they do their work through an Afrocentric lens. So next slide. So this is a little bit about me. I'm just going to leave that up on the screen for folks to read again. I think it's super important for folks to know who they are hearing from and the perspective that that person is bringing to the table. So next slide. So as I talk about social entrepreneurship, I'm going to be bringing some specific perspectives forward, highlighting a class that I took from Penn, specifically from their Center for Social Impact Strategy. So the first thing I'm gonna do is click. So we're going to be talking about what is social entrepreneurship. Then I'll go a little bit into what social entrepreneurship is according to this academic institution. And then what I'm going to follow up with is how do we take, again, this concept of social entrepreneurship and how do we, as the Afrocentric Communiversity, help folks take these characteristics and flip them so that they are culturally affirming and competent. So next slide. So according to Penn, there are 4 characteristics of social entrepreneurship, which are innovation, financial stability, impact, and scale. So those are the 4. But if you had to combine it all together and give social entrepreneurship a motto, it would be where mission and money are balanced, right? So that is the goal of a social entrepreneurship for-profit institution. Mission and money are in balance with each other. So next slide. So let's take innovation first. Now, according to Penn, when we talk about innovation, it's not just the innovation of the product and service, right? Typically, when you hear that word, it's just about the delivery of the thing. How are we innovative in how we deliver an app? But what Penn wants us to do is not only be innovative in the delivery, but also be innovative in the ideation of that idea, right? Or that product or that service. How are you thinking very, very differently, conceptually, about your product and service from start to finish, all the way to the customer review process? So that's innovation according to Penn. Now, in the communiversity, we go to the next slide. We talk about innovation as resourcefulness, right? And being spiritually led and guided, right? So, not just for ourselves as founders, but we also are really big about making sure innovation is not just defined by the founders, the visionaries, but is defined by the community, right? If you are creating a product or service and you've not done extensive research, whether that's qualitative or quantitative, in the community or demographic that you'd like to serve, then we are asking, who is really leading the innovation, right? We want to make sure that the innovation is coming from the community. So a question that I'll pose to everyone to think about, you don't have, please don't come off mute and answer, but think about is how can your company redefine who determines what innovation means for your service or product? So that is our point for innovation. Let's go to financial stability, right? So according to Penn, financial stability does matter. Money does matter. And as for-profit entities, we know we must still consider things like profit margins, sales, budgets, growth track, right? All of the traditional financial metrics and considerations of a for-profit institution. And again, social entrepreneurship is about the balance between doing good and doing good profitably. So if we were to take financial stability and push it, right, just a little bit further in the communiversity, we have flipped the script on finances, and we don't use the term finances at all. Instead, we use the term abundance. So in the traditional social entrepreneurship sector, there is a heavy emphasis on money, right? Which is important. But as diasporic folk, okay, we know that money will only get us so far. When we talk about abundance, that includes resources, relationships, partnerships, ways of being, and of course, our spiritual connection, right? So remember that when we talk about social entrepreneurship and the framework that it is given to us, it's typically going to be in some framework of capitalism or white supremacy, right? And so our job as a consulting company is to help us push to be radically innovative and think past some of the limitations of this culture. So the question that I'll pose to you all about financial stability is, how have we limited defining the financial success of our companies? So that's financial stability. So what does Penn say about impact, right? So in social entrepreneurship, impact simply means, so how do the people feel? Did they resonate with our product and service? And most importantly, is there some kind of written data to reflect that this work is important? In the communiversity, when we talk about impact, we're not only talking about the impact on people, but we want to push Black social entrepreneurs to think about and take into account the impact on the land, right? And emotional, and yes, you guessed it, the spiritual health of your community. So with one of our company core values being interdependency, we want Black social entrepreneurs to know and understand that yes, people are important. And yes, you will be asked to show a report of a thing that you did. But internally, we do want folks to consider, maybe did we print too many documents, right? How did we affect the trees, right? Should we have carpooled instead of driving separate cars to a thing? Was the planning timeline too tight? And then we got really, really stressed and it affected our mental health, right? So again, yes, impact on people is important. And as interdependent beings and as an interdependent society, well, again, a question that we want to push you all to think about in your work is how are we affecting other living beings around us in regards to impacts? So now let's shift into scale, which is our last characteristic. And according to Penn, in social entrepreneurship, we often hear this term scale, right? And so simply put, scale means how easily and efficiently can we replicate this idea. So if you break that down into smaller pieces or tasks, social entrepreneurship wants to know if the financial systems are replicable, if the location is replicable, if the labor can easily and efficiently be replicate, right? And if you notice, many of the ways social entrepreneurship determines if something meets scale is if it's visible, right, tangibly, or if we can see it. So let's push scale a little bit further. How can we flip this from an Afrocentric perspective? So in the communiversity, when we talk about scale, what we mean is there is more than what the eye can see or the body can touch. Instead, it's about growth, right? So we don't use the term scale, we use the term growth. Growth honors that there are ways that someone or something can grow, again, that meets the eye, right? It's about character, and as a Black social entrepreneur, we want to push people to redefine scale and think about how are the values, integrity, and character of one's business growing, right? The things that we cannot see. So if we do a quick little recap, we have a nice little table if you want to take a picture of it. See? Of the difference between social entrepreneurship according to Penn and the ways the Afrocentric Communiversity really tries to push its partners to think about social entrepreneurship. And was that 10 minutes?
You did good. You did good.
So there's my contact information. I'm on most of the platforms, Facebook and IG. There's my direct contact information if you want to learn more.
Awesome. Thank you, Jalen, for that. That was very, very well thought out. And it was wow. If I wasn't coordinating that, I'll be taking notes myself. So I'll definitely be
well, you have the PowerPoint.
Yeah, and I feel like I attended the class at Penn myself, so I definitely like the touch that you added to it. So if anyone has any questions directly for Jalen, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And we are going to and while we have a little time, and then Jalen can answer those questions directly. Okay. Anybody, don't be shy. I promise we don't bite. Um, I don't think we worked that out to where that can go through Zoom quite yet. So yeah, we are here for you. So, but yeah, don't be shy, because if not, you'll just hear more of me start talking. So please, this is the time to drop your questions in the chat. Let me see here, and I'm gonna open up I know you all kind of touched on a few questions and some of your favorite entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs as you all registered today. So honestly, you all have also been teaching us, because I've been researching some of these folks. Some of these people I haven't heard of. So it's really great. And one of the things that I also see is from the people who attended and gave us some information, there are a number of local individuals. When I say local, we are based here in this Houston area, and we serve people all around. but a lot of people recognize some people who are here and in our communities, that we can touch and we can contact directly, and that's very important as well when we talk about community entrepreneurship, or social entrepreneurship, because we have to think globally but act locally. Because believe it or not, no matter how micro you think your circle might be or your audience might be, we're still having a global impact just by us being here today. So like I said, don't be shy. We're here to answer your questions today. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna queue up my presentation, which now I feel a little bit of a way. How do I follow that? But I will try my best. Um, so one of the things that I definitely wanted to start with is to identify as I definitely identify as a social entrepreneur. Um, those who might know me personally, we have some folks who are on the call who are clients of Nweze Financial Solutions, and others who are familiar with some of the work that I've done even before we've opened up our doors of our accounting firm. And I've always been a firm advocate of eliminating food deserts. So some of you might be familiar with some of my gardening work, my work managing farmers markets, standing on the side of the corner, selling watermelon, you name it. Out in the area of food, that has been very important to me. So number thing, and that is my passion. And then at the same time, I as a professional, I am a financial professional. I've worked corporately, and for years, when people found out that I was a financial professional, while I was still working in the oil and gas industry, people were asking, Kavanaugh, will you do my taxes? Kavanaugh, I got this business, I need help. Kavanaugh, do so on and so forth. And my answer was always no. Well, it got to a point, I had one good friend who was like, man, I need some help. And regardless of how many times that I told him that this is not my area of expertise, that's not the type of work that I do, um, he was adamant. And so I sat there at my dining room table and I did his taxes by hand, reading things off the internet, pen and paper, no computer, anything. I did it, I completed it, and it became easy to me. Once I realized it and I submitted this work on his behalf, he was I think he was able to he needed those tax returns to finish some work. He was a business owner. I think he needed some type of financial support or financial leverage, which as a business owner you can't get. And I also was able to see that by having this financial burden lifted from this individual, how he felt better. He was lighter. His stress was removed. So when we talk about growth and abundance, like, yes, we try to think about in the world that we live in a very I guess cut and dry financial and capitalist world, but we also have to take into consideration of how these financial impact our lives. And so that's been a very important thing, and why we wanted to do the social entrepreneurship. It's not only because of how we serve our customers, but serving our own passion is just as important, and we cannot belittle it. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to share at here with you all is, this is a quote that I saw. I just saw this today and I was preparing. So it was so relative. Your calling may not be compatible with capitalism. And when we talk about capitalism can be very exploitative, because it's all about what can I get how can I get the most by paying the least amount of dollars. So it's like we are belittling the value by solely looking at the dollar. How much can I save or how much can I make? It's usually, or it's how can I give just this little amount to get this great amount of money? So it becomes exploitative if you're not thinking in some of those esoteric terms that Jalen was sharing with us today, right? So this is I love this brother. You can follow him on Instagram. That's how I follow. And I would definitely think he is a social entrepreneurship, and he will talk about what he does. He's a for-profit business, but it is he will talk about his work as a ministry. And I can identify for that. I can identify, right? So when we talk about social entrepreneurship, one thing we got to know is levels to it, right? So the first thing is you have to be one with your environment. You have to be open and looking and to find a problem to solve. And that's important. If you're not solving a problem, it's just you're just doing transactions for money. you know you have to be able to solve a very specific problem, and then once you find that problem to solve, then you have to study industry standards. So for me in my community, as being a financial professional working in a corporate environment, the problem to solve is that my members of my community didn't have access to a financial professional to get the advice needed, to get the support needed. And honestly, a lot of times in communities of color, when we talk about financial expertise, it's either overpriced or it's exploitative. It's like we see the the equivalent to loan sharks and all of that, these payday loans and things of that nature. But if you go in other parts of a community, other parts of cities, you see numerous banks. So you got just amount of as many banks in some communities as you have in payday loans and others. And so I saw that, and then I also saw that the people who needed these taxes, small business owners who had a little bit more than W-2s, they there was nowhere they can really go to talk about, hey, I need some help. How can this benefit me? And it has to be relatable. So I saw in my industry those that didn't apply, and then we have to identify who you serve, because once you know those industry standards, you see how the industry works, and then we're typically serving the underserved community. And what is sad to say, but it ain't hard to find an underserved sector in our communities, especially when we talk about anything that has to do with wellness. All right. So then we also have to understand pricing, which even as a financial professional, it is very hard because you're also thinking about the value. You honestly, when the way we work here is, honestly, I want to be able to create more value than you actually pay us. So it's either value through the information or value through a particular form that we create from you by lifting a burden. But whatever it is, you have to be able to tap into that value. And then you also have to be understand pricing, which is an ever moving thing with uh, with inflation, things of that nature. And then you also have to understand that we have a very cross-sectional community. Another social entrepreneur that made the statement, and it's Ivy from Ivy Lee Farm. She typed something every day the other day, and she was talking about three different sectors. We have a sector of our community who can't afford our services. We have a sector of our community who can afford services, no problem. And then we have a sector of our community that don't even need our services, but love what we do. And they may want us to support for us to help serve other people. And in this case, I'm talking about generally as as problem solvers. So you have to be able to understand how to serve those three different sectors within our community, now, or within your community. And then you also have to, what are the standard operating procedures of that organization or of that industry? What, like, not only standard pricing, but how are clients or customers or community members engaged? What do community members need? Are people, like what Jalen said, are we even asking or being open to suggestions from those individuals? But you have to be open to that, because then it's like, who is creating the change? It's like, hey, here, I have this. Now I'm just trying to sell you something, rather than you coming to me and say, hey, Kavanaugh, I need help with this. Then it's like, okay, great. So how can we serve in that manner? And which is something that we did with a number of people, even just this year. It changed because our community was like, we need help with PPP loans. I don't understand, or I'm not even ready, or we need help with these EIDL loans. How can I be in compliance so I can leverage this for my business, for my family, and so on and so forth? So we have to understand the standard operating procedures so we can be a disruptor. It's so many of our clients and so many people, even other professionals who do the same type of work that we do, is like, wow, Kavanaugh, you're doing way more than what's necessary. But it's because we want to. We have a desire to do that. So, but you can't do more unless you not understand what people are typically dealing with. Then we not only do we problem solve for our customers, our clients, but it's very, very important that we still problem solve for ourselves. So we're looking externally for these problems, but internally, most of the times we have a drive, we have a passion within us where it's like, hey, I want to do this. I want to serve in this manner. I want to help somebody in this manner. How can I do it? So once you find that and you try to align all of these 5 topics, then you can move forward in your social entrepreneurship endeavors, right? So like I said, it's levels, and even each and every one of these, I can continue to go on in this particular manner, on these particular topics themselves individually. Um, so another big question when we talk about social entrepreneurship is, I'm a numbers guy, but I like literature, I like Shakespeare, so I couldn't help myself, to be or not to be, right? And usually that question is to be or not to be a for-profit or a nonprofit entity, right? A social entrepreneur organization can be either. Now, I wanted to talk about some very big differences between a for-profit entity as a as a, excuse me, as a social entrepreneur. So one of the things, if you're creating the for-profit entity, and really it goes for both of them, either way, by creating these entities, you have protection from legal liability. And believe it or not, when you start doing right, somebody's gonna find a reason to come and look for you, mess with you, or whatever have you. So you definitely have to have some protection of a legal liability for a for-profit entity. When you're for-profit, it's the ease of transferring profits or expenses to owners. And when I say that, I mean pass-through entities, filing tax returns, all of those type of things. It's very easy to do that. It's less bureaucratic, because you can start a for-profit entity by yourself. You can create a partnership. It can be a subsidiary in another business endeavor that you have, but it's very flexible, and it's typically a lot less bureaucracy. It's like, do you know what you want to do? Go after it. you know Once you have one of these entities, is very little restrictions in terms of what you can do, as long as it's a legal endeavor. Now, when we talk about a nonprofit entity, we still get some personal protection from legal liability. It's a lot easier to raise funds if you are trying to get donations, get grants. More than likely, they will give that to a nonprofit before they will give that to a for-profit entity. Um, and then like I said, it is far more bureaucratic because you need at least 3 people on your board of directors at all times. That board has to meet. You have to have board minutes, so on and so forth. And the larger the nonprofit becomes, the more bureaucratic it can become, which is a good and bad thing, but it's definitely a challenge regardless. And then usually that nonprofit is committed to one specific purpose. When you're creating nonprofits, the IRS asks, like, what type of nonprofit are you? Majority people are either charities or religious or spiritual groups, but you also have civic clubs, right? You can't have a civic club and then, oh, you know what, next week we're going to do a restaurant, we're going to be a food bank or whatever. It's more static, or it's more friction to do that in a nonprofit entity. However, if we were a for-profit entity, I can be a restaurant one day, I can be a food truck the next, and it's all the same, no problems at all, right? um so now when we talk about these for-profit entities, there are specific types of entities. When you're a nonprofit, you're pretty much a nonprofit. You file a 990 every year. It's a little straightforward. You There are different 990s that you can file. To summarize it, as best, the bigger you are, the more complex the form that you have to file as a nonprofit. But you more than likely you're filing some type of 990, form 990, the number, and that's the number of the tax form. Now, for-profit entities, we can it's pretty much the same. It's just identified with that purpose, but identifying that with that purpose and not having our paperwork right is honestly one of the biggest issues. Is because, so you can be a sole proprietor, which means you did nothing in regards to filing and creating an entity. You probably did a DBA, but you made no formal filing with the state. So you would be a sole proprietor. You can fulfill your passion, you can do your work, but every year you need to file a 1040 and a Schedule C. Now you can also be an LLC. If you can create that LLC, if there is only one member of that LLC, which I think, Jalen, you're an LLC, am I correct? So as one member of that LLC, you will file a Schedule C, which is attached to your personal 1040 tax return every year. Now, if there is more than one person on the documentation of your LLC, then you are a partnership or a joint venture. If that is the case, it's the same taxable entity, but you have a different form that you have to file, which is this form 1065. If you can be a corporation, you got the 1120S or 1120. There's a special item that a lot of people don't always talk about. It's called a personal service corporation. So a personal service corporation means it's just like a corporation, but basically it means you have to both be an owner and an employee within the business. And I would say, I think more than 20% of the work performed within that business has to be performed by you. The main benefit of these personal service corporations means that when you have high income earners, let's say you have a business and you got profit of 100 grand, then you're going to be taxed at that 100 grand as a LLC or so forth, or a sole proprietor even. But this personal service corporation, it's a shelter to where you can start this corporation. You're an owner and an operator, and you are a W-2 employee of this business. Now, what that means is if your income is super high and you find yourself in a 33, 30, 35% tax bracket, then doing a personal service corporation, your tax rate is capped at 21% rather than going to 30 and so forth. So that is solely for high income earners, to where you're in the higher tax brackets, but this is a way that can help you. Now, when it's a lot of people who talk about social entrepreneurship who have heard about what's called a certified B Corp. Now, this is a real thing. But however, a certified B Corp is not a recognized taxable entity structure by the IRS. The certified B Corp, the easiest way to explain it is it's the equivalent of a farmer being designated as an organic farmer or a sustainable farmer. Basically, it's a testament to your practices, how you serve your community, how you serve your employees, and also how you impact the environment. That is what it's a whole certification process and an annual fee that you have to pay to be labeled as a certified B Corp, which is, it can be beneficial to you, and they do have different benefits. If you're familiar with I think it's Patagonia, the outdoor apparel company, they're a certified B Corp. It's a few others, but if you look it up, it is a thing, and it's not a taxable entity. Okay, so when you talk about taxable entities, we're looking at the top three. All right, and I saw we had a couple of questions, or at least a couple of comments here. So I'm trying to see if I can go in and catch, make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, okay. All right, we're glad that this is helpful to you or to you all. That's why we're here, and just trying to make sure that we can empower more social entrepreneurs to go out and continue to demonstrate the value that we all need in our community, and communities, and how to do it properly. If it's some conceptual work that you have for your particular purpose or passion, I definitely recommend reaching out to Jalen. She's a jewel. When we made the decision to have to talk about this topic today, and as I started to dive into it and thinking about what I would touch on, I was like, there's no way I can have this conversation without including Jalen. So really want to thank you for choosing to participate with us on this. And like I said, we got a little bit more time. So if it's any questions, any concerns, any things, you can even unmute yourself, and let's talk about it. That's what we're here for. If there is not, what we will do is we will this call is being recorded, so it will be uploaded and it will be available to all of the participants. who registered here today. Um, so I see. What about an S corp? So yes, a S corp can be. You can be a social entrepreneur as a S corp, and I had it here. Let me see if I can go back really quickly. Um, but yes, you can be a social entrepreneur and you can be an S corp. And then you also do have the ability to pay yourself as a W-2 employee. But you don't have that nonprofit ability to where you're giving tax deductions and attracting those funds in. But you can definitely be a S corp. Rather you start off as a S corp, or even if you are an LLC, and then you convert to an S corp. So yes, an S corps, C corps, these and the term social entrepreneurship is more of a what's the best way to, it's a classification, if you will. It's an informal classification. It's not a tax structure, and a lot of people kind of get a little bit confused. It does not have to be a nonprofit. To be completely honest, the majority of the social entrepreneurs that I do know are not nonprofits. They are just serving the people who need their help. So an S corp is perfectly fine. It's just about serving your base. I hope that answered your question, Ms. Roberts. Um, yeah, and honestly, great. It's so social entrepreneurs are all around us. They come in various forms. They might be a professional that sits in the office like myself, and I think look like Jalen got a nice little library over there. Um, uh, but and entrepreneurs, they are, they are in my neighborhood is known as a food desert, but because of certain social entrepreneurs, I can walk out the door here and I can walk to at least three, maybe, yeah, at least three black owned vegan restaurants, which is a big thing. But because they know, or they knew, that healthy food was not available in this community. And so not only are they in business, but they are fulfilling the need of the community of having access to healthy food. And sometimes that it even show up as a healer. I think Jalen, you work with doulas, right? That's a ministry, that is making sure that you are giving more and creating life, and because these doulas saw a problem and a void that existed in the medical industry. And not only are they being advocate for birthing rights, they are also being there a part of the process to make sure that these children are arriving in the healthiest and the safest manner. And believe me, Jalen, I didn't know all those vocabulary words. I get that from my wife. She told me about birthing rights. She talked to me about it all the time. So I'm all for it. I know you work with a lot of doulas. Um,
That's wonderful. I'm
yeah,
so
yeah,
happy.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so social entrepreneurship is all around us, and it's not restricted to a particular type. It's whatever is important to you and pushing that endeavor forward. Because a lot of times when we talk about capitalism, the root word to capitalism is capital. Capital, usually when you look at that definition and you talk about capital, is the having the resource or having the ability to exploit someone else who's short on resources. That's what capitalism is. And it becomes exploitative. But when we start talking about these social endeavors and these passions and how we can do this but still create a value for ourselves is very important. So understanding that pricing structure, understanding who you're serving is very important, because I've had sometimes you can be doing something that's very valuable, but if it's not priced right, you will not be able to serve the right customer. Or you won't, or some customers will have a block. It's like, it's free. This can't be good. I experienced that in one of our gardens. There was like, we didn't give out any food. We didn't charge for any food. Well, I think the first couple of years, everything was free, but we had food left over. And as soon as we started selling food, then people we never had enough, and people would give leaving donations to pay for food for others, you know And so that is just that piece. And customers want to be valued, and they want to give value. There's a lot of people who just like, look, I support what you do, and I'm here to do that. But we also have to get these technical words drilled down to think about what is the cost for you to provide that food, or for you to grow that garden, or to be that doula, for a family for 9 months. What type of time commitment does that make? And you also have some personal commitments too. And a lot of times, as these with these in these social endeavors, and I'm speaking to myself, our personal needs are the last thing that we consider, but it's very, very important, because we none of us can pour from an empty cup. Okay. So Jalen, you have anything?
I mean, no, Deacon, that was
Buddy.
that was amazing.
All
That was
right,
amazing.
cool. Well, thank you, and I want to thank you all for joining us. And if there's not anything else, and I pray that this was valuable, and it helped guide you all on your journeys from serving your respective communities. Please reach out to myself or Jalen if you need any support in this manner, because it can be tedious, or it can be taxing. No pun intended. um, but yeah, we're here for you. We're here for you, and so we'll save this recording. We'll send it to you if you need it, and we'll also be sending out the notes and the PowerPoints and all of that good stuff. And we're here for you. So please, um, use our abilities and our expertise as your asset. All right. Thank you. I said,
Everyone.
yeah, Mama, yeah, in the mix. Good to see you. All right.
Thank y'all both so much. Much appreciation.
Yes, thank you,
Oh,
thank
our
you.
pleasure. Bye, friend.
All right, now y'all have a good one.
Alrighty.